Right, here we go. We're going to talk about Nick Spencer's Spider-Man. Roll the intro. I'm not going to make this like a typical catching up with, because A, I'm not 100% caught up with Nick Spencer's Spider-Man, and B, I'm going to be complaining, I'm going to be moaning a lot. So this is, I have problems with Nick Spencer's Spider-Man, and I'll start off with the first like problem that I have, the first issue, if you pardon the pun, that I have with Nick Spencer's Spider-Man. It's the lack of Spider-Man. So what I mean by this isn't the fact that Spider-Man barely appears. Well, it is. That's exactly the reason. Spider-Man's barely in his own book. It's like he's there, he's in every issue, but he's never the focal point. This is exactly the same problem that I had with Dan Slott's run and Dan Slott's Iron Man. The main character, the title character, isn't ever the focus of the book. The first arc was focusing on a Spider-Man that wasn't Peter Parker. It was focusing on two distinct entities. And the second arc focused more on Boomerang. The third arc focused more on Black Cat, and so on and so forth. And then the whole Hunted storyline was like so crammed with so many characters that Spider-Man got lost in his own event. And then you come onto the more recent stuff with 2099. They are trying to push Spidey forward, but because Doom's in the book, you're like, oh, I just want to see more of Doom. I don't like Doom takes the spotlight, and Spidey's just there again, and it's like, why are you putting Spider-Man up against Doctor Doom, and why are you even doing this story? It's stupid, because there's a problem with 2099, and Doctor Doom has a problem with, and someone tried to assassinate Doctor Doom, so it's too much going on, and the main title character just gets lost in everything that's going on around him, and he's never like the focal point in his title, which is annoying. It's just the fact that Nick Spencer has so much stuff that he wants to do. Even when he does have those issues of downtime, it's focusing on other characters. Like he had the issue just after Hunted, where it's supposed to be downtime. We get to see Spider-Man just taking some downtime. No, we're going to focus on Craven's son more so than we are Spider-Man, and we're going to try and set up a new Sinister Six. They're going to call themselves the Savage Six, and we're going to set up the Chameleon. Something's happening over here. I don't like that. It feels like there's way too much going on. Like, Nick Spencer needs to understand priorities, because if you set up so much stuff in one issue, like, that all needs to build up and pay off, and when it's all building up at the same time, you can get lost in what storyline's going on where. And when your main priority is just having these 3-issue arcs that that don't really have, and having these things go on in the background, that's kind of a problem. You need to have like your story that's going on, your main story, which should be like dealing with the Savage Six, and maybe this Kindred storyline going on in the background up until like you want to force him forward, which should have been done already. It should have been done after Hunted. I can't believe that we're now on issue 35 and something teased at the start of it, at the end of issue 1, hasn't been resolved. I'm going to get onto that later. My second problem ties in with the first one, and it's that there's too much being set up. And there's too much that's being set up that's going to happen in other books. The biggest thing with this is the Mary Jane stuff. Like it's set up that she's going to make a movie, and everything to do with that is going on in the Mary Jane book. And I don't want to read a Mary Jane book, and I don't like how that completely messes up like the good like thing that got everyone back into reading SpiderMan when Nick Spencer's run. It's like you're finally putting them back together, and then you're taking them apart again, and Spider-Man can never be happy. And like, why is that the case? You leave like issue 29 on a really depressing note, where he was going to propose to Mary Jane, but he just didn't make it in time because he was busy fighting the Chameleon. And to add insult to injury, the person that he was trying to save died. Which, you know, it's just, sometimes it's too funny for its own good, and there's like jokes in every other panel, and it's like, can you tone it down a bit? Can you like have a little bit of seriousness? And then there's other times where it's like, okay, this is a bit too depressing. Can we roll it back to the funny boomerang stuff? Like, I understand like Marvel's obsession with having a sad Peter Parker, but you don't need that to be his default. You can have Peter Parker be happy like once in a while. I also don't like the fact that he's back at school. like this is another thing that kind of annoys me. I understand that there's a reason for it. I understand that there's a reason for him to be back at school. Like Doc Ock, when he was in the body of Spider-Man back in Superior, there was a big kerfuffle with that, and he ended up like doing all these papers, and all of this research that was done by Doc Ock, and it's now Spider-Man using that, but it's Doc Ock in Spider-Man's body, and of course Peter can't really explain that, so he's been taken back to being in school, and he has to do all of everything that he did again, even though he already graduated and he was accepted as being a teacher in the same school that he's gone back to as a student. Which I don't like. I don't understand why that's now the case, because he was a teacher there, and it's like, why doesn't someone just say, wait, he was a teacher here, he doesn't need to re-graduate? Like, even Kurt Connors, who is currently the Lizard, like full time, is a tutor there, and he is the main teacher of Spider-Man now. And even he is like, right, I know you're bright, I know you're better than what everyone's saying that you are, but I can't let you not re-graduate. Like, this is a guy that saved your life and your family on many occasions. Can't you just, put in a good word for him, But yeah, that's just something that personally annoys me, and it also annoys me that they've done nothing with it. Like, they put him back into school, but there's not like a really developed supporting cast there. It's like the only like supporting cast is like, that's another thing that I don't like. The mainstays of the supporting cast are just put on the backbench. Everything that's Spider-Man that like Aunt May, Mary Jane, Harry Osborn, Flash Thompson, all that is put on the backbench. Well, Flash Thompson's dead at the moment, so they can't really do anything with that. Harry might be Kindred, you don't know, so they can't do much with that. But they have this kind of, they're trying so hard to push Mary Jane, but she's barely in the book post issue 9. Like, issue 8 and 9 do this big thing where it introduces this superhero side character kind of like therapy group where it's like Jarvis, a load of other like side characters, friends and family of the superhero community that get together and they all like discuss their thoughts and feelings and problems. That's a good idea, it's just not developed and they kind of forget about it. Even like Carly Cooper comes back and like she's completely forgotten about. Like, Nick Spencer brings in really interesting ideas, but they never do anything with it. Like, especially Kindred. Like, they try and build him up to be this big threat, and like nothing's done with it. And now we're going to talk about the biggest problem. Kindred. Kindred is my biggest problem, my biggest gripe, because you set up your big baddie in issue 1, and you're like, he's going to be the big baddie of this run, and issue 35 comes along, and still hasn't met Kindred, is only aware of his existence, has only seen him in dreams, like, and all this other stuff keeps going along, and it just seems like padding to get to that point. And you're like, normally, if this was any other writer, they would have done the big Kindred story already. And the thing is, when you first see Kindred, it's like something out of a horror movie. It's so different to the tone of the book going before it that it's like, wow, I want to see more of this villain. And then with every subsequent appearance, it's like, can we just get this over with? Because it is pointlessly dragging it out. It's like what they did with the red jacketed guy in Dan Slott's run just after Secret Wars, which led into Clone Conspiracy. But even that was over by issue 20. Even that led into Clone Conspiracy by issue 20, and it was done by issue 30. This, I have a feeling, is going to lead up all the way into issue fucking 100, or issue 900 even, which I really don't like, because all of the other big like issues this could be like a Venom thing where they're trying to build up the character to be the next Venom, but I hate that. I really do hate storylines that last years. It's one of my biggest bugbears. Just like 6 issues or maximum 20. Don't go any further than that. The only reason why I like the Punisher run so much is that stuff's happening in every issue, like stuff advancing the plot. It's not like actively saying, oh, this is happening, that's why you can't do this at the moment. Oh, there's something over here that's taking you away from the main story. It's like every issue is the main story. So there's no downtime in that book. But in this, it's all downtime. Most of it is just getting distracted with pretty colours over here and getting distracted with other stuff over here, and none of it very interesting, none of it very good. I do have like other niggles and gripes, like the constant change of artist, which is really annoying, and everything else with the book. The best thing with the book, the thing that I really like about Nick Spencer's Spider-Man is the actual humour and tone of it now. It's gotten into its rhythm. It's gotten into its groove. Like, Nick Spencer's a great writer. I have no doubt that he has talent as a writer. It's just he's trying to be better than he is. He's trying too much, and he's putting too much on the table, and he's like, Spider-Man has to be the biggest thing. Spider-Man has to have these massive storylines, and it's like, no, he doesn't. Spider-Man is at his best when he's like on the ground level. That's why Spider-Man Homecoming is so good, and Spider-Man Far From Home isn't as good, from what I've heard. I haven't seen Far From Home yet, but from looking at it, I can tell right now that they are trying too hard with that movie to be like, oh, we just did Endgame, we have to make everything bigger now. But you don't. It's Spider-Man. He doesn't have to be big. Like, the best Spider-Man stories are the smaller scale ones. Like, if you look at the best storylines from Spider-Man, Venom is a very like self-contained small story. The end fight they have happens on the roof of a church. Like, it's not that big or bombastic. Even when they introduced Morlun in Coming Home, that wasn't a big storyline. That wasn't like Spider-Man's got to fight an army, or Spider-Man's like the entire world is going to end. It's no, this guy is hunting Spider-Man. Craven's last hunt. Someone shot and killed. Craven shot and killed Spider-Man. Spider-Man's dead, practically dead, for 2 weeks, and Craven impersonates Spider-Man for those 2 weeks, and goes around punching criminals and doing everything that Spider-Man would do, but from how he saw it, better. And there's a big fight, and there's a fight in the sewers with Vermin, and you know, some stuff spins out of that. But the best Spider-Man stories are the ones that are on ground level. Nick Spencer is just trying to make things too big and too bombastic, like, for no reason. It's alright to have a big bombastic Spider-Man story when you have build-up to it, but Nick Spencer just chucked in everything in the first arc, where he had like, oh, you're gonna fight an army of Tri-Sentinels. and then you're going to fight every like D-list villain in the bar with no name, and then we're going to do Hunted, where Craven kidnaps and enforces every like bird-themed or animal-themed villain and hero into a small dome in Central Park and makes them fight each other. And even when that's done, absolute carnage. Why? Because we have to do tie-ins now. It's like that, and it's a decent tie-in because it's literally just Spider-Man fighting Norman Osborn, who believes that he's Cletus Cassidy, and trying to stop him from killing Dylan Brock, who is Eddie Brock's son, who thinks that he's Eddie Brock's brother. That's a decent storyline. Why can't everything just be? Why can't you just scale it back? Just scale it back. Because that's when Spider-Man is at his best, when you scale it back. And that's why Daredevil's so good at the moment, because he's scaled it back. Because Chip Zdarsky understands that Daredevil, street level hero, doesn't need to be big, doesn't need to be bombastic. You can have those big bombastic moments, but it doesn't have to be all the time. Because when you do it all the time, it loses its impact. That's my biggest gripe with Nick Spencer's Spider-Man. It's just he's doing so many big storylines that they're all kind of moulding into one, and it's all kind of losing impact. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.